Hello everyone. Today's video I'll be recapping the Eagles versus the Bucs, and I'll also be kind of doing a quick week three recap. Um, so we'll start with the Eagles. Um, it was a pretty dominant game from them. Uh, even more so than like the score indicates 25-11. It was more like 25 to 3 until uh fourth quarter touchdown. But anyways, this game was kind of frustrating at first. Um Jalen had two picks, and one of them he there was a misunderstanding with Swift. But the second one, he just threw it into double coverage. But the guy made a good play on it. Usually that probably doesn't get intercepted. Um, but anyways, the passing game is slowly getting better, but it's still really concerning. There's a lot of questions about Brian Johnson as the offensive coordinator. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll start with the offense. They only put up 3 points in the first quarter, and it felt like they should have had at least 10. There's pretty bad play call on their first drive. They got to the red zone, and it was 3rd and 2, I think. And um, I don't quite remember, but I think it was an incomplete pass. And then on 4th and 2, they went for it, and um, it was kind of just like a normal standard run to Gainwell, and they got stuffed. Um, and I didn't really that was like kind of was like, okay, I don't know about Brian Johnson here, because like if you're at 3rd and 2 with the Eagles' offensive line and everything, I don't get why you don't just run it. And if you get stuffed, then you can try another play or just kick the field goal. But if you run it and you only get like a yard or so, you have the Eagles who are the best at the QB sneak, and you probably could have done that on 4th and 1 if you got it there. And so I didn't really understand that because the first drive it was going pretty good up until that point. Um, so their first couple of drives of the game, they they would start the drive good, and then halfway through the drive, it would just stall completely randomly. Like it'd be bad play calls, um, it'd be incomplete passes instead of running it because they literally could not stop DeAndre Swift, but they went away from it for some reason just to throw it, just for the sake of throwing it, and that's why I'm kind of worried about Brian Johnson because he's a quarterbacks coach. Like he needs to understand that his job as the offensive coordinator is not whatever would suit Jalen best. It should be whatever suits the offense best. So I'm kind of worried about that. Um, and then in the second quarter, I believe they got a good drive and got a touchdown. And then at the end of the quarter, Jalen Carter made a big play after the Hurts interception. Like the next play, Jalen Carter made a huge play and forced a fumble, and we got a field goal out of that to be up 10 heading into halftime. And we'll talk about Jalen Carter in a second here because, man, That dude's crazy. Um, and in the second half, they looked much better offensively. Um, I believe they got a touchdown and a safety, and I want to say a touchdown. They went the whole field, like the whole drive. Couple first downs to AJ. AJ still hasn't scored yet this season, but he's had a bunch of huge first downs, uh, which are almost just as important. You know, you don't score if you don't get first downs. And if you don't get first downs, the other team will have the ball more. So AJ is doing just fine. Uh, and then we'll talk about the safety more on the defensive side, but Jalen kind of threw an arm punt, as they call it, and pinned him down at the one, which the guy made an amazing play. Let's see if I can find his name. I don't know, I can't find his name. The guy made an amazing play. It probably wouldn't have been an interception most of the time, but I don't know, it happens. And then the defensive line stuffed them, got a safety out of it. And then the fourth quarter, uh, Baker and Mike Evans connected on a couple plays. Um, he had a great one-handed catch. Mike Evans is one of the best receivers in the NFL. Like he's kind of low key. Like most people don't think of Mike Evans when they think of elite receivers, even though he is that good. Um, and then so after that touchdown, they got the 2 point conversion and made it. Yeah, they made it 25 to 11, which ended up being the final score. But so the Eagles got the ball back with 9 minutes left, and they had the ball for the whole 9 minutes. Like Tampa didn't get the ball back once because they were just running it, eating clock, and getting first downs with AJ and Goddard and Gainwell. I thought I saw people complaining on social media that like why is Gainwell getting touches when Swift is so much better? And I think it's important to remember that the running back position probably takes the most punishment, you know? So if you can kind of limit the amount of touches that your best running back takes, like that'd be good. So I think it's a good way to make sure that make sure to optimize the way you play to save potential injuries. Um, yeah, so we'll go to the defensive side of the ball. Uh, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are just like I genuinely just don't know how to describe it. Like there's no way to run the ball past those two guys. Like if Jordan Davis gets his hands on you, it's done. You're going to the next play. Like you're not getting any more. The play's over. You know, and Jalen Carter just wrecks the line. He takes double teams, which allows the other players to do even better. Like Fletcher Cox, um, I believe, I think he had a sack. He might have had two. Can't remember. But he had a sack and like he played very well. And he's literally 32 years old. Like he's been playing for the Eagles for a while now. And he's still like so good at this age because Jalen Carter makes his job so much easier, which I thought that was something to note. Um, and Jordan Davis as a pass rusher, he's gotten so much better at pass rushing, but he's also able to stop the run while doing that, which is just I don't like I said, I don't know how to describe it. I think I wrote some on my phone. Um, but yeah, um, and so for the secondary, Darius Slay was on Mike Evans for majority of the game, and Mike Evans ended up with 60 yards, which is you'll take that every day, you know. Um, and the majority of that was kind of when the game was over, anyways. Um, and then something to note was this was Bradbury's first time playing slot because Maddox is out for the year. Um, and I was pretty worried about that. Because Bradbury and Slay, they've always played like outside cornerback, you know? And so I wasn't quite sure how playing inside would work because you got to have so much better instincts. Um, yeah, he did great. I thought Godwin, he, I thought he was gonna have a big day because of it, but he pretty much held him to very little receptions. I don't even know if he got one, to be honest. Um, there is a big play by Sidney Brown. Mike Evans almost had a touchdown in the second quarter, I think. And you could tell it was going right to his hands. It was like maybe a foot away from his hands. And Sidney Brown just got his hand in there, just uh, batted it out, which was huge. That saved them 4 points because they got a field goal uh, from it instead of a touchdown. Um, I wrote, uh, I think like Joe Buck made a comment about Howie Roseman and how he just does so well drafting now. And I wrote, when people figure out the best drafting strategy is picking the best players from the best school, Howie's going to be finished. Which I thought was just funny because it sounds so simple, but like Howie's basically just reconstructing the Georgia defense, and no one else had this idea for some reason, even though that defense was historic. Um, I thought the defense bailed out Jalen's two interceptions. That's kind of why it wasn't even really noticeable. You know, they got the safety off the one, and then Jalen Carter forced the fumble for the field goal. Uh, Nolan Smith, he's a rookie, uh, uh, playing on the edge, defensive edge. I forget what the position is called. Um, he had like a brutal hit on Baker. Baker like just got the ball off, and Nolan Smith comes in and just obliterates him. He had to go to the bench for a second because he was just so shaken up. And I don't want anyone like to be hurt or anything, but Nolan Smith is just he's gonna hurt some people, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Um, one thing I thought was kind of weird is how people keep talking about Jalen Carter and what happened at Georgia, how he was in that racing incident and his friend got in a wreck and passed away. And people, I don't know, I feel like people just keep mentioning that, like yeah, Jalen Carter's great, but, and it's kind of like there's no need for it. I just think it's weird, and I think it's a lot of it. I think is like people just coping that their team didn't get Jalen Carter. But I don't know. It's important to remember that like athletes are humans too, and he dealt with a lot of pain from that situation, and I don't think it's right to just keep bringing it up and bringing it up, and I don't know. I didn't like it. Which Joe Buck and them, they didn't really bring it up. Like, but last week on Thursday Night Football, they just kept bringing that up. Uh, I think Reed Blankenship, their safety, he didn't play last week because he had a rib injury. He played this week. He got an interception and he made a bunch of big tackles, and he's gonna be good. A really good find for them. I believe. I believe he was undrafted. Uh, yeah, I think he was undrafted. He's from Middle Tennessee, which is plays in Conference USA. And I know a bit about Conference USA because UTSA plays there, and that's where I attend school. And most of those players, they don't make the NFL, let alone become like a valuable player, you know? So I think that's just really cool to see. Almost done with the Eagles notes. I think that's about it. The offensive line just still solid all these years later. You know, some of those plays I felt like Jalen had probably 7 to 8 seconds to make a throw. And when it came to running the ball, I mean, DeAndre Swift had 16 carries for 130 yards. Let me see if I can find their overall rushing. They had 201 overall rushing yards against the second best rushing defense in the NFL behind the Eagles, and they held Tampa to 40 rushing yards. I know Tampa is not really a rushing team, but still 200 to 40, that's pretty crazy. Right now, Swift is averaging like I think 6.8, I want to say, yards per carry. He's gonna have an incredible year behind this line. He is like I don't want to throw shade to Miles Sanders, but he is so much better than Miles Sanders. Like Miles Sanders, like DeAndre Swift, like mid play, he'll read what the line is doing and then adjust to that. Whereas back, last year, like Miles Sanders, once he got the ball, his mind was made up. No matter what space the line made, his mind was made up and he was going to go run that certain way. And, it led to him being benched in the Super Bowl because every time he touched it, it was a loss of yards. Um, yeah, so I think like, if they had Jalen Carter and DeAndre Swift last year, they'd probably win that Super Bowl. But um and yeah, that's about it. I'll probably think of something later, of course, like I always do. One thing I thought it was pretty something to write down was that Darius Slay is 32 years old and locking up Mike Evans. He defended Justin Jefferson last week very well. Him being able to do this, like, it allows the defensive line to just be that much better because the quarterback has to make an extra read because Slay is doing his thing. One thing about the defensive line, the edge rushers they haven't done much this year. And part of that is because Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are just so good right now. Like they're taking some of those sacks. Like there's, I think they have 6 sacks on the year, and 4 of them are from interior linemen. I'm trying not to be concerned about it, but like I don't think Reddick even has one yet. And last year he was so huge for them, so he really needs to get going. But I think he will. Um, so yeah, we're gonna head on to a recap of week 3. If you didn't watch my last video, I picked the whole slate. Um, week 1, we went 9-5-1. Or I'm sorry, week 2. I didn't cover week 1, but week 2 we went 9-5-1. Give me a second. Let me count up this week. I didn't do it before. Okay, we got 9 right this week. So 9-6 this week, 9-5-1 last week. That goes for 7. So if you were to bet $100 on each one of my picks, you'd be up $700 right now, but that's neither here nor there. Um, so first one on my list here is Falcons Lions. I don't have some of these we're gonna go through faster than others. Falcons Lions. Ritter stinks. He's awful. Anytime he throws the ball, just get ready for it to be bad. I thought Goff was pretty good. He always plays good at home in a dome. Uh, and yeah, Chargers Vikings. This game was hilarious. It was basically before this game started, it was like, are the Chargers gonna Charger or are the Vikings gonna Viking? Who is gonna mess it up? And both teams tried their hardest to mess this up. Um, there's one point in this game, Chargers were 4-1, 4th and 1. Uh, it was 28-24, 4th and 1 on their own 20, 25 or something. And first down wins the game, right? So they go for it and they don't get it. And keep in mind, Justin Herbert in this game was phenomenal. He was 40 of 47, 405 yards and 3 touchdowns. And so on this gotta have it play, all or nothing, they decide to run the ball and get stuffed. And it's like, okay, if you're gonna do this on your own 20, game on the line, first down wins it, and you're not gonna use your quarterback who's 40 of 47. It's like, what? I just my brain couldn't handle it. Like I don't know. Brandon Staley is just an idiot. And he tried so hard to give this game to the Vikings. And so the Vikings take over, and they I can't remember. They get like a first down. They missed a few plays, got to third down, made a conversion, and then that conversion, the clock is running, and they don't have any timeouts, and they need to go up and spike the ball, but they don't do it. They take like 20 seconds off the clock going and doing that, and so now they only have one play left. It's rushed, and Kirk throws a bad ball, gets intercepted, and game is over. It's like you can see both teams just wanted to lose the game. Uh, yeah, and ended up being the Vikings who lost. And I think this might be dramatic, but I feel like if you're a Chargers fan, you probably wanted to lose that game because if you lost that game, it would show just how bad Brandon Staley is, and now this guy has his job for another week, and that's gonna hurt you more in the long term than it is just this 1 week. Like Justin Herbert, man, I feel so bad for him. Um, Something of note here is that the Vikings were 11 and 0 in the regular season in one score games. And everyone kept saying how unsustainable it was. And you look here, and all three games they've played ended in one score games, and they're 0 and 3. And they're likely going to miss the playoffs. And I thought, with I thought Brian Flores was going to be a good coordinator, defensive coordinator, but he needs to learn to do something other than blitzing every single play. Like, he doesn't have the personnel for it. And like when he did blitz, he barely even pressured the quarterback. Like if you're blitzing and you're not pressuring the quarterback, what are you doing? Um, that's why Herbert was 40 of 47. And so I don't know about Brian Flores. I thought the Vikings were going to be a lot better this year, but that is not the case. It looks like I don't want to say the Lions will run away with that division because the Packers are 2-1, in fact the same record, but I don't think the Packers are as good as the Lions. So it seems like the Lions are gonna run away with that division, especially getting to play, Chicago and Minnesota twice. But we'll move on to the next game. Saints Packers. Um, I thought Jordan Love showed a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Showed a lot of I'm so sorry, I can't think of the word. Showed a lot of resiliency. They had 0 points going into the fourth quarter, and they scored 18 to win the game. Uh, Something of note, uh, Matt LaFleur went for two on the second touchdown, I believe, um, to make it so that the next touchdown they would take the lead. They end up winning the game by one. That's something to look at considering how the Raiders handled their game last night. Um, Derek Carr went down in the second half. He sprained his shoulder, which that was why Green Bay won this game, to be honest. But still, like, they still showed resiliency, though. The Saints defense is legit, and I predicted that Green Bay would win this game easily because the Saints don't have a good running game and Green Bay has a good passing defense. And so I thought, Derek Carr would have to make very tough throws, but he did. I didn't think he had that in him, but he did. And the Saints have good receivers and a good defense. And if Derek Carr didn't get injured, like they could have went on some type of run. Their schedule's pretty easy. But we'll have to see with this Derek Carr injury. He's unlikely to play next week. Um, Something I thought was something of note. Uh, the Saints said that if this injury had happened on turf instead of grass, his shoulder would have been broken. And I think the NFL should really look at that and get grass for these players because turf is just too brutal. So, yeah, hope Derek Carr gets healthy soon. And that was a good game. I didn't quite catch all of it, but yeah. Next is Texans Jaguars. This game was, from a Jags perspective, this game was just nightmarish. Um, it's same old Jags. It's like in 2018. I don't know if y'all remember in 2017, the Jags went to the AFC Championship game. And it's like, okay, like they're a good team. Like, let's see what they got. And then the next year they just flop and are horrible. And it's starting to look like that. How they had that big, huge comeback playoff win last year. It's like everyone's like, okay, like they're gonna be good. No, and no, they are not. The first half, I thought Trevor Lawrence played amazing, but his receivers just hate him. There's so many plays where they were just stepped out of bounds or something. There's a play where a receiver caught it, moved, and then fumbled. Calvin Ridley dropped like two catches, one of them being a touchdown and the other being a slant first down. It was just so they came away with 0 points in the first half, and then in the second half, they looked a lot more like their old self, or their how they should look. I mean, and but it didn't matter because once the Jags got it to a one-score game, their kickoff team, their special teams, they let a fullback take it to the house. I'm sure you guys have seen that, and that was just so deflating for them. Uh, Trevor Lawrence, he did have an interception, and it was pretty bad, but people are making. I feel like the game was lost at that point. He was just trying to do his best to save it, and just ended up throwing a bad pick. Um, CJ Stroud for the Texans. This guy, like, he's going to be very good. Um, 20 of 30 for 280 yards and two touchdowns. And a lot of his throws, if you looked at them, he was releasing it when the receiver was hitting his peak, like maybe like a second before the receiver would hit his peak in the route. He was just reading the routes perfectly, making good throws. He's going to be so good. Uh, I said not on this channel, but I was saying to like my friends and stuff that Stroud is going to be the best quarterback in this class. I think Bryce Young is too short, for lack of a better word. Um, and we'll see about Richardson, but as a passer, Stroud is going to be the best quarterback from this class. Another thing of note, Houston just owns this team. I don't get it. I truly. Another thing, I forgot about this with the Eagles, but so with Doug Peterson, he keeps trying to get Press Taylor to call plays, and he's so bad at it. And I don't know why, because like I said in my last video, like Doug Peterson calling, it's like an elite play caller. I don't know why he doesn't want to call plays. And so they got 0 points in the first half. And I guess he took over play, like there were reports that he took over play calling in the second half, and that's why they look so much better. And I just don't know why he's trying to do this. And yeah, so if you look at the score and stat lines, you probably think Trevor Lawrence played bad, but I promise so many of it was like drops and receivers just selling on him. To be honest, he deserves a better team, but it's not the NBA. Usually guys stick with their teams in the NFL. Um, so one thing I forgot to mention with the Eagles, I think Nick Sirianni took over play calling in the second half because the offense looks so much better and more balanced. But they'll never like say that publicly. That's one thing I meant to mention in the Eagles section. All right, next we got Broncos Dolphins. This game 70 to 20 in favor of the Broncos. Miami is just scary. They did this without Jalen Waddle. who's a very good receiver. I picked for my picks prediction, I picked the Dolphins 6.5. Just because I didn't think Denver was gonna hang on, but I didn't think it'd be like this. And when I heard Waddle was gonna be out, I was like, oh crap! Like I picked Dolphins 6.5 for my channel. Like now that's probably not gonna happen, but like man, they didn't matter. I thought Tua was surgical. He was 23 of 26 for 309 yards and 4 touchdowns. Devon A-Chain, rookie running back, had 203 yards. Tyreek Hill did his normal thing. I mean, I I think Miami's the best team in the league right now, 3 weeks in. Um, I mentioned how I don't like Sean Payton. I think he's a bad person. And the Dolphins coach, Mike McDaniel, basically said we had a chance to like make history and score the most points in NFL history. But he said he didn't want to do it because he wanted to be classy or whatever. And I was like, if there's any coach that deserves to be on the wrong side of NFL history, it's Sean Payton. I think it's like hilarious what he kind of what he said to the media about Nathaniel Hackett, and Nathaniel Hackett is not a good coach by any means. But you don't go like out in public and just do that. I don't know. So I thought that was funny to happen to him, and how he was like blowing up on reporters and stuff. Like, come on, man. You can't let up 70 and then be moody with reporters. Like go F yourself, you know what I mean? Um, yeah, so I don't really know what to say. The Dolphins were just insane that game. We'll have to see. Next week they play the Bills. That's gonna be game of the week probably. Next is Titans Browns. The Browns defense is for real. They were just having their way with Tannehill. That was a pretty easy bet. Not a whole lot to talk about. I thought Deshaun was okay. I don't like the guy. And I kind of root against him, but he was all right. Next is Bills Commanders. Sam Howell, the Commanders quarterback, was sacked like 9 times, I think. And I don't think it's really the Washington offensive line so much as it is the Bills defensive line. And he also kept running into them. He ran into a few sacks, which is why why he didn't go in a higher round when he was drafted, because he would do this in college too. He would run into sacks. Um, yeah, I got this one wrong. I thought it was going to be a closer game, but the Bills did their thing. Not really a whole lot to talk about. Next is Colts Ravens. I didn't really catch too much of this. I guess Minshew did pretty good. There's a bad missed PI that led to the Colts winning this in overtime. I thought Lamar was a little careless with the ball. It was, storming, raining really hard, and he like pump faked out in the rain, and of course the ball slipped out of his hand. It was turnover. I thought he could have been better. Michael Pittman did pretty good. Um, One thing about the Colts, I think you have to decide between wanting to win games now with Minshew or developing Richardson and probably losing games. You have to decide which one's better. I think for the long term, obviously, you want to develop Richardson, but at the same time, it's like I can understand an organization wanting to win first. So I think that's something to think about. Um, Next is Patriots Jets. This was like the easiest. If if like gun to my head and I had to pick a game from here, like it would probably be Patriots Jets because like Bill Belichick just owns Zach Wilson. Like there's really nothing here. Mac Jones is a dirty player. We all saw that. But Zach Wilson, he didn't have any interceptions surprisingly, but I think at halftime they had like 6 yards. And so it was just Bill Belichick doing his thing against the Jets again. Not really much to talk about. MetLife Stadium, just that's the worst stadium in football. I hate that the Eagles have to play 2 games there this season. Usually the turf is injuring people, and then this week their paint was wet, so all the players were wet with paint. It was just, I don't know. They have got to do better. Next is Carolina at Seattle. Uh, I thought two things here. Gino bounced back from a bad first half. I thought that was big. He's shown that he can bounce back a lot. I thought that was big. And then Seattle, their pass rush hasn't been good. Uh, this game it was good, but that was more Carolina's offensive line being bad. Uh, so Seattle, I maybe this is the start of them being good at pass rushing, but we'll see. Uh, no, I think Seattle, they're very weak at offensive tackle. If they could somehow just get stronger at that position, they're going to be a very tough team to beat. I don't know if that'll happen though. We'll see. But, um, next is Bears Chiefs. Uh, this was just a blowout. When a team has adversity within the locker room and within the organization, they do one of two things. They either rally behind it and really pull themselves together and just say, let's just go out there and compete, you know, or they let it beat them. And that's what the Bears did. They're dead. They might not win a game this season. Justin Fields looks broken. The coaching staff is terrible. The plays are terrible. Their defense isn't good. Their offense isn't good. There's literally nothing to like about them. Like, I can't think of one good thing. Maybe they started running Justin Fields a little more this game, which is his strong point, so you should have some design runs for him, but it didn't matter. Um, Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're back. I thought their offense struggled a little bit the first 2 weeks, but they're fully back now. And then I just want to say one thing about this game, how they kept mentioning this Taylor Swift bullshit. I am so sick of it. I am done. Like, I am so sick of hearing about this. It's only been one day since the game, but every media outlet, every news, every Sports Center clip, every major sports show has talked about this Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce thing. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna swear here. I do not give a fuck. Like, stop it. Stop. Okay? Stop. Like, I'm so sick of it. And I'm pretty sure most NFL fans are. Next is Cowboys Cardinals. Um, uh, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this game. The Cardinals compete. They got players. Dobbs looks really good. He's been a backup for a while now, but he's proven that he can be a starter. I don't like Gannon because of what happened in the Super Bowl, but I hate to say it, he seems like he's going to be a good coach. I think this is more the Cowboys blowing it than the Cardinals winning it. Um, Mike McCarthy, he's calling the plays, and they were down the whole game. And when you're down, you need to throw the ball more, or else you're going to run out of time and not put up enough points. So Arizona kept giving them the run, and Mike McCarthy just kept taking it. And so I feel like him as a play caller, he reads more what's given to him rather than what the situation needs, if that makes sense. So I said it before, the Cowboys are a good team. They have good players on both sides of the ball, but I will never ever think they're gonna win because of Mike McCarthy. He's a horrible coach, and he's the reason Aaron Rodgers doesn't have more rings because of his time in Green Bay. If you don't believe me, look up the 2014 NFC Championship game. Uh, there's a good tweet by Trill Bro Dude. He does a NBA podcast. Let me find it real quick. It's funny. He has this tweet from September 9th of 21 saying Mike McCarthy sweating profusely as he hovers his finger over a comically large red button that says lose game. And I just think that that describes it perfectly. Um, it's what he does. He just loses you the game. And people blame Dak a lot, and I get it. I like to rip on Dak because I'm an Eagles fan, but he's a good quarterback. It's not fully on him. I think it's more Mike McCarthy than Dak. Next is Steelers Raiders. I didn't really catch this one. Um, Josh McDaniel, he's bad. He's not a coach. He should have went for two, or I don't know. There was some situation he kicked a field goal instead of going for it, and then just like never got the ball back, and that was the game. He's not good. Jimmy G was horrible. Pittsburgh, they looked better. Their offense looked a lot better. However, I think it seemed like two bad plays and then a good play. That's what it seemed like. And it was a lot of Kenny Pickett throwing to George Pickens, bailing them out, which worked for the game, but we'll see how that holds up. But they did look better. Last week they were awful. Next we got, Eagles Bucks. Kind of gave my thoughts on that. And then finally Rams Bengals. This seemed like a defensive battle. I didn't quite catch it because of the Eagles. Stafford, he had two interceptions. One of them was tipped, and the other was just a bad throw by him. That's Stafford. If he has the ability to play amazingly good and win you the game, but he also might throw a bad interception and lose you the game like he did against the Niners. Joe Burrow didn't look good for the first half. I think it was the calf. The second half he looked a little better, I think. Kind of. It might be something to do with like having to warm up the calf. I really don't know. Um, the thing that won Cincinnati this game was their pass rush, I think. Again, I didn't quite see the whole game, but it looked like every time the Rams were going to gain momentum, their pass rush would just uh, ruin it for them. So yeah, that's sorry, kind of longer video. I had to fit the whole week 3 recap, and I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. If you have any comments, let me know and like the video and subscribe. Uh, Let me know, what do you think was the biggest upset from this week? And I mean like upset, like Miami winning by 70, like that was amazing, but it wasn't an upset. An upset, I mean like the Cardinals beating the Cowboys, or let me see what there, because there were a lot this week. The Colts beating the Ravens, that was pretty surprising, at least to me. The Texans and the Jaguars, I think that might be the most, that might be like the hardest for the team that got upset, if that makes sense. Yeah, let me know how your team did, or what your favorite game was, or if you have any comments on the Eagles game, be sure to leave them. Thanks for watching. I'll be doing a video probably on Friday previewing week 4, and yeah.